The beginning of everything started with those unforgettable words, "Let's be treasure hunters." They were confident that the six of them would be able to accomplish their sole objective, which was to become the most heroic heroes in history. The brave, brash, and brawny men became the unparalleled swordsmen. The quick and skilled friends laid traps and became the thieves who guided the party, while all the other friends had the natural talent needed for the hunters. The only one who lacked talent was Kurai. In the world of hunting, people have a high-class job in which they explore treasure houses and have the opportunity to acquire wealth, fame, and power. This objective has not changed from the past to the present. 5 years later, in the imperial capital, Zeboldia, a huge crowd was gathered outside a building. Kurai was perplexed as to why there were so many people present, as he was unable to even enter the building. Suddenly, a young lady approached him and inquired as to if he was also interested in attending a party. Upon introduction, she stated that her name was Luda Runeberg and that she was a hunter of level 3. Additionally, Kurai introduced himself and expressed his pleasure in meeting her, despite the fact that he was cognizant of the fact that he might put her in jeopardy. Luda inquired as to if he was also going to be traveling alone. The fact that she was getting jitters was a source of negative energy for her, as she stated. She explained to him that she had been working as a hunter by herself for the entire time, but that she had recently encountered some obstacles. She made the decision to come when she learned that people were looking for a diverse group of hunters to join their ranks. In spite of the fact that Kurai was taken aback by all of this information and found it remarkable that she had accomplished reaching level 3 on her own, he refrained from expressing his thoughts and instead simply stated, "That's pretty reckless." Luda continued by informing him that she had attempted to go to the White Wolf Den, but she was unsuccessful because there were not enough people there. As a result, she felt that she would be better off joining another party. It was her belief that if they had approximately 5 people of level 3, they would be able to rise up against the White Wolf Nest. An additional individual by the name of Greg, who was standing nearby, overheard their conversation and asked them in a furious manner if they were aware of the location that they were discussing. An irritated Luda confronted the obnoxious man and inquired as to the reason for his complaint. However, Greg merely stated that the combination of level 3 hunters and the White Wolf Den did not sound appropriate. Individuals who were just starting out in the world of hunting were not permitted to congregate here. He conveyed to them that the individuals present had a strong belief in their own capabilities. It was for the party that was associated with the footsteps that the members that were being recruited were. Even though they were a relatively new clan, they had quickly become the most powerful clan in the capital. In front of the magnificent mansion that belonged to the Genesis Steppe clan, everyone was gathered together. Luda, who was fuming with rage, attempted to defend herself by claiming that the poster had stated that history and level were irrelevant. Although level 3 was considered to be of a moderate difficulty, Greg admitted that there were significantly more level 3 hunters in the steppes than she could have possibly imagined. Luda boldly challenged Greg to a fight, but Kurai kept his distance and retreated in a stealthy manner. A security guard then yelled out that fighting was not permitted at that location, and that if they continued to fight elsewhere, they would be disqualified without having to take the test. This occurred before the fight could begin. The fight was called off, and while Kurai felt a tinge of relief, Luda was taken aback by the large number of people present and pondered if they were all hunters. In response to Kurai's inquiry as to if it was her first time, Luda stated that it did not appear to be neither her nor his first time. After giving it some thought for a while, Kurai stated that it was his 5th attempt. Luda was taken aback when she overheard that. Kurai made an effort to minimize the situation by claiming that it was not actually true, but it could have been the first time he had been in such a large group of people. Considering that Luda was not very knowledgeable about this subject matter, she inquired as to if he would be willing to share some information with her. In response, Kurai stated that it was not a negative scenario, and that there was still a demand for skilled hunters. He was familiar with a large number of well-known hunters, so she ought to view this as a favorable opportunity, despite the fact that it had been a considerable amount of time since he had visited the capital. After that, he inquired about the purpose of her actions. He observed that she had a short blade, but he believed that she would require skills that went beyond those of a combatant. The first thing to note is that this room had rules. which meant that their levels were on par with those of the inner parties. As he pointed towards a group of individuals, he stated that this particular group was the most powerful party that was currently recruiting members. The Arc Brave was the name given to them. Luda's statement that she had not heard of them did not come as a surprise to Kirai. They had all reached the age of approximately 21 years old, and the 6 of them were considered to be the elite of the elite because they had successfully completed a treasure house of level 7. In the event that they joined that party, success would be more or less guaranteed, and even if she did not get in, a word from them would mean that other parties would scout her out. Luda inquired if that was even feasible. Kirai stated that it was entirely dependent on her, and to the best of his knowledge, the Arc Brave had never before recruited members from members of this location. While he was pointing towards another party, Luda remarked that he had a great deal of knowledge. Despite the fact that she was exhausted from listening to him, she believed that it was only natural for him to know this much. She inquired about the destination he desired to go to. After a brief moment of reflection, Kirai remained silent because he was unable to utter a single word. Indeed, in comparison to the others, he did not possess any particular expertise. His inability to do anything was due to his clumsiness. That was his justification for his lack of bravery and strength, which he believed he lacked. In point of fact, he was only concerned about the possibility of losing his life while working as a hunter. That was most likely the most significant reason, and the mere thought of it made him start to feel queasy. Luda made an attempt to change the subject by pointing out a table that was nearby and empty, despite the fact that it had not been cleaned up. Greg from earlier came back and informed them that they had arrived here without any prior knowledge. This occurred before they were able to move. Angry, Luda inquired as to if he desired something from them. Greg told her that she shouldn't be so cold and introduced himself as Greg Sama. He claimed that he would teach them the proper way to do things as their senior. On the other hand, Kirai held the belief that he had never heard of that name before. In the meantime, Greg informed them that the table they observed belonged to the group that was responsible for the creation of the steps with the Arc Brave, despite the fact that it appeared that they would not be present today. Luda was informed by Greg in a hushed voice that today more people than usual were present, including some malevolent spirits. In a typical scenario, the Black Cat and the Statics would be present. However, they would not recruit. He pointed towards a group of individuals, and Luda inquired as to if the individuals who had the step marks were present despite the fact they were not present at the party. Greg explained that there was not much of a reason for members who were already a part of the steps to be there if they were not recruiting any new members. During their solo performance, Kirai mentioned that they were hunters who were affiliated with the Footsteps. Luda was taken aback and inquired as to if a clan could have individuals on their own. Greg clarified that the bare minimum for a party was one individual, but it was impossible to make any arrangements for a party consisting of just one person. In spite of this, they were able to join one if they applied on their own and registered in an exploration co-op party, despite the fact that they were required to have a significant amount of skill. At a considerable distance, they identified Tino Shade, a level 4 solo hunter. Luda was taken aback when she saw this young girl as a level 4, but Kirai cautioned her not to speak too much about it because their age and appearance had nothing to do with how quickly they could lose their temper. And in response to Greg's observation that he didn't really look like a hunter yet he knew so much, Kirai responded in a composed manner that gathering information was also an important aspect. And to add insult to injury, he said this young lady was actually a disciple of a friend of his. Kirai says, well, to be more specific, she is his friend's disciple, thinking that this indicates that his friend is an even more formidable monster than the actual monsters. Since she is an independent traveler, Kirai continues by saying that he is perplexed as to why she's present. The statement that people are coming to this location based on a lie is something that Greg agrees with. It has been speculated that Saragi, one of the founding members of First Steps, will be recruiting members for the first time in a significant amount of time today. Saragi has not recruited anyone in a very long time. Greg is under the impression that there is no way to meet Saragi at the social gathering of this magnitude, and there is not the slightest possibility that he will be invited to his party. It is highly likely that the people in this area are only expecting to catch a glimpse of him. During the course of the conversation, Luda notices that Kirai is not feeling well, and she inquired if he was truly sick. To which Kirai responds, "No," but he believes that they should not bring up that name. Staragi is the name of a particular elite party that is so powerful that they're able to clear treasure halls at an incredible rate. On occasion, their influence could be comparable to that of a monarch's authority. Strange Grief is the name of a party that rose to prominence in the blink of an eye and has become a household name. As far as Kirai is aware, he has never heard of members of Staragi recruiting other people. Greg also makes the observation that it appears to be nothing more than fake news. He was looking forward to it, but given how long they've been keeping to themselves, it is highly unlikely that it'll happen. Instantaneously, they become aware of an adventurer losing their temper with the administration and demanding to know, where is Staragi? Because he claims that he does not require scrubs and because he was informed that he has the potential to be at the top, he went to this dump. According to Kirai, the person who has been the most vexing throughout the day has just arrived. Greg takes a look at the adventurer and wonders if this individual is secretly plotting to turn everyone in this place into his adversary. The adventurer declares that his name is Greg and that he's on his way to becoming the most powerful hunter in the world. He is currently at level 4 and he's interested in forming a partnership with the most powerful individual in the capital. Kirai, on the other hand, is of the opinion that he is unable to determine if this individual is truly serious or simply has a desire to die. At that very moment, Tino presents himself to him and tells him that this is enough. Those individuals who are unable to recognize their place in the group are not desired. After observing the situation, Kirai concludes that this is not a good one. Another member of Tino's party makes an attempt to stop her by stating that their objective is to recruit new members today, and that she should not cause any disruptions. But Tino claims that she will put an end to it in a moment by beating him down. In addition, she states that she is certain that this would take place if Onisama were present, because she had promised to take her into Strange Grief once she had reached a level of strength that would allow her to enter. He tells her to leave the idiot alone and reminds her that they have orders to end things as quietly as possible. A member of the party makes an attempt to stop her from doing those things. The adventurer becomes enraged and inquires as to who he's referring to as an idiot. Greg is observing an unfolding of the drama, is cheering for Luda to rip the adventurer to shreds when she does so. In spite of the fact that they are both members of a high clan, Kirai believes that Greg is the same as that idiot. In light of the fact that once a fight begins, it will not end, he advises Luda that it is best to immediately give up and leave. If she gets involved, there is a possibility that she will die. He grabs her hand and tells her that the only thing he's confident in is his ability to sense danger, and that they ought to leave before the fight breaks out. Luda, on the other hand, is adamant that she has arrived here in search of a party. As Kirai examines the circumstance, he concludes that this is a pointless situation. It's possible that he shouldn't have come here at all because everything about these guys is muscle, even in their brains. He yells at Luda, telling her that he will assist her in finding a party the next time, and that their lives ought to take precedence over everything else. He makes the decision to leave the location. At precisely the moment when the adventurer who is challenging Tino draws a massive sword, Tino is taken aback by the sight of the weapon, and gets ready to launch his own assault. When they begin the fight, the crowd cheers for them to do so. In the meantime, Kirai and Luda are making an effort to flee the situation in a stealthy manner. Tino suddenly appears in front of Kirai and blocks their path as he presses the door handle to leave the room. Luda and Kirai look at her in disbelief, and Tino looks at Kirai and calls him Master, asking how long he's been there. Let's talk about the beginning of the dream. They had a dream when they became adults at 15. In order to put their abilities to the test, the 6 of them came together to form a group and registered at the Level 1 treasure house. There was only one way to enter that treasure house, and the level of difficulty involved gimmicks and steep terrain. It was the only treasure house available to novices and was designed for hunters with a strong passion for the game. Following a period of time during which they were subjected to rigorous training without taking any shortcuts, the group had no trouble navigating this treasure house. As Kirai believed that he was moving in the direction of a prosperous future as a treasure hunter, he felt a sense of excitement. In spite of this, he came to the realization that he was not on par with the others when he compared his actual strength after training. Everyone had already noticed that he lacked talent and that his growth rate was slow, but they never discussed it because they had been friends since childhood and were the best of friends. Kirai believed that he was to blame whenever the group ran into difficulties. Consequently, the evening following the beginner treasure house trade, he informed the group that he desired to withdraw from the group. On the other hand, one of his friends stated that he had given it a lot of serious thought throughout the night, and that he was of the opinion that Kirai ought to be the leader of the party because they had not yet assigned any of the roles. As we return to the present, people in the crowd are all taken aback, and they're beginning to speculate that Kirai might be the member of Staragi that has been rumored to exist. On the other hand, there are those who believe that he is not capable of being a member because he's too feeble and too timid. They wonder where he has been all this time, particularly during the uproar. Kirai, who is experiencing the weight of all the collective stares from the crowd, thinks to himself that this is a painful situation. It's just that he got a little too much sleep and arrived late, and he's wondering what he did wrong. In the moment that he's lying on the ground, he's thinking that it would have been preferable if he hadn't come at all. Tino, on the other hand, assures him that he had nothing to be concerned about. Peerless Shadow is the only disciple of the genocide monster, and she is Kirai's childhood friend. She's also known as Peerless Shadow. Tino asserts that Kirai reigns supreme as the leader of strange grief. Kirai, on the other hand, is reflecting on the period of time when they came together to form the clan. Despite the fact that he was surrounded by a heap of iron scraps from the monsters, he acquiesced to everything with a sluggish attitude. The mere act of contemplating it now causes him to feel nauseous. Tino is questioned about the reason she is present, as well as Hanto's location. Tino explains to him that she came because she heard about the activity that Kirai's group was doing today, which is recruiting new members. In a state of bewilderment, Kirai asserts that he never mentioned that he was going to reveal his face. Having said that, he's currently contemplating what she shared with him, which is that he's the founder of the group, and therefore he ought to at least show his face once. An everyday occurrence that has been exaggerated to an extreme degree. Kirai is aware that if people continue to congregate, additional rumors will spread even further. In the meantime, Staragi is actively searching for exceptional new members to join their team. Kirai is currently seated at a table contemplating the fact that he will never return to this location again. Ark Roden, the leader of Ark Brave, appears out of nowhere and begins searching for him. It is revealed that this individual is nobody else but Ark Roden. Ark extends a warm greeting to Kirai, making a joke about how long it took him to arrive. Kirai explains to him that it does not matter, he simply overslept. Ark laughs and says that Kirai always has the funniest jokes, but he also admits that today was one of those days where he was unable to sleep along with everyone else. When Kirai sees a girl standing next to Ark, he thinks to himself, "This guy always has a girl by his side." After Ark is inquired as if Kirai was evaluating from the shadows, he makes the remark that it's not fair for him to not wear his uniform when it's a rule that he must always have it on. In an effort to make his point more straightforward, Kirai explains that he has been telling Ark all along that he simply overslept and did not have enough time to get dressed. While this is going on, Tino, who is standing nearby, gives his opinion that Ark is extremely impolite and suggests that they should exile him from the clan. Ark begins to laugh and remark that Tino is absolutely hilarious. Ignoring his remark, Kirai inquires as if they have discovered any good members today. Ark pauses for a moment and admits that it's difficult to make a decision because there's a lot of wonderful people. But when they go to the treasure house, it's a different story to find people who are actually skilled. Regarding this matter, Ark inquires of Kirai if he's discovered any suitable individuals to join his party. Because Kirai hasn't been paying much attention, he's convinced that he's completely clueless about the situation. There are only 3 other adventurers that he has come across: Greg, Luda, and that irate adventurer who wanted to fight Tino. Kirai communicates to Ark that they do not lack members, despite the fact that she is feeling overwhelmed by all of the attention. Next, he inquires of Ark if he is requesting recommendations. Ark is fully in agreement and expresses his complete confidence in Kirai's judgment. A murmur of anticipation can be heard coming from the crowd. A girl who's standing next to Ark, on the other hand, requests that he stop. It piques Kirai's interest, and he wants to know if Ark would be willing to accept anyone, because he's also responsible for training his own group, so he only needs one person. While this is all going on, Kirai, in his free-spirited manner, is considering the possibility that this could be a promising opportunity. Furthermore, when it comes to the process of recruiting new members, he freely admits to himself that he is completely incapable of recognizing talent. Consequently, he turns his gaze towards Tino, who's standing next to him. Tino suddenly becomes ecstatic and exclaims, "Master is so cool!" Nevertheless, she declares that she will not participate in this fake Playboys party, despite the fact that she is thankful for the opportunity to be by his side. Instead, she suggests that Kirai should select someone else. As a result of this, Kirai is dissatisfied and believes that it's problematic, because if that is the case, he will not be able to obtain an accurate estimate. After he is finished thinking about how hilarious these hunters are, he looks over at Tino. She appears to be aware of what he's going to say next. After some time has passed, Kirai lets Ark know that he has a specific person in mind, but that he will reveal this information at the appropriate moment. The earlier adventurer, who has been fuming with rage throughout the day, yells at Kirai, demanding to know when he's going to bow his head in front of him. Assuming that this individual possesses a certain amount of nerve, Kirai inquires as if he has any party members. It is a question that has the angry adventurer completely taken aback. He's informed by Kirai that it is significant, and he's then asked for his name. In response, the intrepid traveler reveals that his name is Gilbert Bush, and that he's a master of the Purgatory Sword. As far as Kirai is concerned, that must be from the Treasure Broadsword of the Palace class. Then, Kirai informs Ark that the matter has been resolved, and that Gilbert is his new recommendation to Ark. However, there is one condition. The only requirement that he has is that they must not come out on the losing end. He puts forward the question, "What do you think is the most important requirement of a hunter?" That is victory. He tells Ark that if they do not have that strength, he and his party will find themselves in a difficult situation, and they should demonstrate to him their don't lose spirit. However, Kirai is thinking that it's going to be much more embarrassing to admit it out loud, and he's considering the possibility that he's going to throw up. He believes that this will demonstrate how hard-boiled Ark still is. After that, he turns to Gilbert and tells him that ever since he became a hunter, he has never been disappointed in his performance. This is due to the fact that he never engaged in combat, but that is irrelevant at this point in time. He removes one of his rings and hands it over to Gilbert on the occasion. Shotfinger is a treasure magic tool of the Palace class that can be used to release a magic bullet. This ring is Shotfinger. After that, Kirai gets up from his seat and makes an announcement to everyone that Gilbert is his recommendation. However, before he does so, the other adventurers should attempt to defeat him. If someone is able to steal the ring that he's just gave him, that person will be recommended to join Ark Brave, and they will be able to keep the ring for themselves. Tino's excitement is heightened upon hearing this, and he immediately leaps to attack Gilbert. He finishes him off with a single blow, and the ring is knocked to the ground. Tino is applauded by the crowd, which is taken aback by his performance. Kirai considers this moment to be an opportunity to flee the building and get away from the authorities. The following day, Kirai is occupying his room at Kiran, which is the headquarters of First Step. Then, all of a sudden, a woman who's wearing glasses walks into his room while holding a newspaper in her hand and informs him that the events that occurred the day before are all over the news. First Step's Vice Master, Eva Lenfide, is the person in question. Incredulous, Kirai inquires if she is being serious. Eva hands him the newspaper and informs him that in a fortunate turn of events, there were no civilians who were hurt. As a result of this information, Kurai feels a sense of relief because they would be in a precarious situation if any of the commoners were injured. Eva informs him that he will be receiving a warning for being the cause of the entire commotion. However, Kurai simply responds that he does not require a warning and asks if, even without the comment, isn't that a little bit cruel? After that, he inquires of Eva whether Ark has made any statements. While he was reading the newspaper, she tells him that she had just met him a short while ago in the lounge and that he was laughing in an annoying manner. Perhaps he's not bothered by it. When Kurai throws the newspaper to the side, he thinks to himself that he's relieved that Ark Brave is ranked second to the first step. A question is posed to Kurai by Eva. What is the cost of the destruction of the bar? He tells her that Ark took care of the bill, even though he did predict that this opportunity would be missed with that kind of promise to borrow money when it was available. It was reported to him by Eva that a complaint had been received from the expedition team. Kurai advises her to handle the situation in the appropriate manner. On the other hand, Eva tells him that he shouldn't be such a bother, that he should come over here to explain clearly. The fact that he has been called upon is causing Kurai to feel irritated, and the sensation is causing him to feel like throwing up again. Due to the fact that he has been in this situation a great number of times, Eva claims that he is already accustomed to it. However, Kurai asserts that it does not matter how many times it has occurred. Being summoned is something that he cannot become accustomed to. Section C of the Imperial Capital Branch is known for its terrifying atmosphere. He tells Eva that he has been responsible for the deaths of a significant number of people in the past, and then asks, "Can Ark go instead of me?" Kurai is confronted with the question, "Aren't you relying on Ark one too much?" It is then that Kurai sits up straight and places his ring back on his finger. While this is going on, Eva tells him that she's aware that he does not wish to go, but that he ought to go. Kurai explains to her that it's not that he doesn't want to go, it's just that he doesn't have any guards with him. It's Eva's assurance that everything will be alright. Because it's only the Imperial capital, they will not be attacked while they are inside the city confines. Kurai finally gives in and says that he ought to just get all of this unpleasant business out of the way. He also believes that now is the right time to make use of the one and only fantastic ability that he hasn't utilized in a very long time. Kurai has finally reached the search and support meeting at the Imperial Capital Siboldia subdivision team that supports hunters. As soon as he walks into the hall, he notices a large group of hunters from various parts of the country chatting and having a good time. As he passes through the crowd, he feels extremely scared and realizes that it's easy to get picked on when one drops their head. It is safest to walk brashly and boldly, according to all his experiences. However, he is unable to comprehend the reason for this. In this town, you must either walk boldly or you will be eaten. After that, he recognizes a person who's reading a newspaper that contains an article about the events that took place at the Recruitment Club. It is a sad state of affairs for him to be popular in this manner. Finally, he's able to get in touch with the receptionist, and he informs her that he has some business to discuss with branch head Gark, and that they have already discussed it, so all that's required of her is to direct him. The receptionist recognizes him and inquired if it's related to the incident that occurred at the bar. After what seems like an eternity, Kurai finally comes face to face with the branch head. He bows his head in front of him and thinks, the bar wasn't completely destroyed. It was just half. There is a human named Gark who serves as the branch head of the Search Support Imperial Capital Branch. Significant moles cover his face, he has tattoos on his chest, and he has enormous muscles. He stands at a height of more than 2 meters. Although he is well known, he is now considered a commoner because he's retired from his role as a hunter. Despite the fact that he is still bowing, Kurai rubs his chin on the floor and says that he did not do it on purpose, and that he had no ill intentions towards anyone. He explains that the only thing he was thinking about was protecting the common people from being burdened, and that he even obtained permission from the proprietor to destroy the bar before it actually occurred. Kurai makes an effort to explain the situation by stating that they were causing him a great deal of trouble, and as a result, he attempted to stop them, but they had no interest in listening to him. He He continues by saying, "How am I even supposed to stop them?" He insists that he really tried to stop them with all of his heart, but that idiot told him to give it his best shot if he could. He's adamant about this. Kirai is cautioned by Gark not to make an attempt to force his way through. In a state of panic, Kirai declares that destroying buildings is an entirely superior option to causing harm to people. He also mentions that he and the proprietor are very close, and that the proprietor is a wonderful individual, so everything is fine. The lady who is standing next to Gark tells Kirai to calm down and reassures him that there have not been any reports of damage. Gark tells Kirai that he hasn't even reprimanded him yet, but he still asks him to take a seat. He explains that even though there have been no reports of damage or claims for compensation, First Step is a very large clan, and he would be setting a poor example if he simply forgave a scandal that involved a clan that ought to be the model hunter clan. Kirai is completely taken aback by this information, as he had anticipated that the search and support group that he's familiar with would have released him because there was no reports of accidents or injuries. He has come to the conclusion that this is a punishment game. Specifically, he inquires of the branch head if he's advising him to participate in an unpopular punishment game, which is essentially a job for a loser. It is not necessary for him to phrase it in such a manner in front of him, according to Gark. When Kirai says that Gark, as a former hunter, is just giving him a problem because he's basically carrying the lives of the clan members, he crosses his legs and says that he's complaining about it. According to him, this does not imply that he will not accept it. However, he has been under Gark's care for all of these years, so he is aware of his position. He's willing to do it this time, but he's aware that a number of the jobs would be impossible for him to complete, so he will only accept one of them. In spite of this, he's adamant that he did not commit any offenses this time around. The lady laughs at his arrogance and remarks that he is getting better at provoking people each time they get together. Kirai, on the other hand, believes that the key to his success is that he will be submissive when it's required of him, and not submissive when it's necessary for him to be dominant. To help him choose a job, Gark provides him with a journal. In light of the fact that Ark is capable of accomplishing anything, Kirai considers picking the one that is the least difficult and then passing it on to them. On the other hand, as Kirai reads through the journal, he comes to the realization that the punishment game contains a great deal of challenging activities. Finally, he's able to secure a level 3 position, which is characterized by a low reward and a time constraint that is relatively lengthy. However, despite the fact that it is a request for volunteers, it will fulfill his needs. He indicates this post and adds that he is willing to accept the bone collecting job that is the least difficult. Seeing as how it's not a bone collecting job, but rather a rescue mission, Gark becomes enraged and tells Kirai not to say anything that could be considered unlucky. Kirai, on the other hand, does not appear to care and declares that he will accept the job before leaving the room. Following Kirai's departure, Gark makes the observation that Kirai is the same bright boy as he always was, and then she asks him if he's okay with this. It's fine, according to Gark, as long as Kirai takes it, it's completely satisfactory. Considering that Kirai considers it to be the least difficult job, the truth is that it's quite possibly the most hazardous, dealing with demon mosquitoes. Nevertheless, if Kirai is going to take it, there won't be any issues to worry about. On the other hand, his eyes are very sharp, despite his attitude. The fact that Ark is not present at the headquarters of First Step is revealed to Kirai when he finally arrives there. Ark was summoned by nobles due to the Prism Garden incident that he had captured some time ago, and he will not be returning for a considerable amount of time. It seems to Kirai that this is a very unfortunate turn of events. What is he going to do about this punishment game now? Eva inquires as to the reason he does not simply go by himself. Kirai makes an attempt to justify his weakness by claiming that he hasn't been in a treasure dungeon for quite some time, which is the reason why he's so frail. According to Eva, this is due to the fact that he has been slacking off far too much. The accumulation of strength is a significant factor that contributes to the fact that a hunter's strength is on a different level. In addition to mana and martial accumulation, the hunter abilities of a person can be significantly enhanced by sprinkling them with grega material, which can be found in significant quantities in treasure halls. If someone stores it in a town that is secluded and densely populated, like Kirai does, the power that is stored in their body will vanish in the blink of an eye, and they will return to being a normal person. Kirai makes the decision to delegate this request to a person who spends a significant amount of time in the lounge. In an effort to prevent him from doing so, Eva argues that it's not appropriate to impose an urgent request on other individuals. When Kirai finally makes it to the lounge, however, he discovers that there's no one there. He takes note of the fact that Tino is seated by herself, which is very peculiar. Kirai is greeted by Tino, who compliments him on how wonderful he looks today. However, Kirai is thinking, it's already afternoon and she's the only one here. Tino then inquires about the mask's whereabouts. Kirai informs her that it had broken, and that it was an important treasure that he was attempting to save. It was a reverse mask that allowed him to change his voice and face whenever he desired. Tino suggests that it would be more appropriate for him to simply reveal his regular face rather than wearing that strange mask. Following that, she inquires, "Where is Onisama?" Kirai is surprised that she didn't hear about Ludas being in a treasure den, the level 8 castle. Due to the fact that they were quite enthusiastic about bringing something back this time, it is unlikely that they will return for some time. The timing couldn't have been worse. This indicates that there is no one else in the real world to play the punishment game with. The ring that Kirai had retrieved from the party recruitment hall is then presented to her by Tino. During the brief moment that Kirai was not paying attention, she transformed into one of those stunning monsters, despite the fact that there were a great number of powerful monsters present. Tino takes the ring and places it between her fingers. She then tells him that she does not care about parties with fake hot boys, but that she cannot allow him to give his ring to anyone who is so outrageously foolish. She makes a proclamation that from this point forward, she will obey his wishes. Kirai explains that it's nothing more than a shot ring and nothing big. Tino then asserts that there is value in things that he cannot see, and says it was interesting. That is what the fake hot guy had said. Ark is the person she's referring to when she refers to him as the fake hot guy. Then she asks Kirai if he's actually going to give her this ring. Kirai claims that he would never lie, but he admits that he's feeling a little guilty about it. Meanwhile, Kirai is considering the possibility that she will be able to fulfill this request now that Tino is the only one left. Therefore, he inquires if she's available today. When Tino says that it will be the most liberating moment of her life, her eyes sparkle with excitement. Kirai is thrilled by this news and informs her that he has been offered a position with the support team. He asks if he can make the decision on her own. Tino is a little taken aback and says that this is the most shocking she's ever been in her entire life. She goes on to explain that her little heart is shattered into a million broken pieces. Never in her wildest dreams did she imagine that someone would actually do something so cruel. Kirai makes an effort to explain himself, but Tino interrupts him before he can say anything by stating that she has the impression she was abandoned after being raised. She freely admits that she had the desire to accompany him on a trip to the store to purchase some ice cream. Tino tells Kirai that it's a trap and adds that she does not like it when he goes on dates with Eva while she's away. Kirai is taken aback by the fact that she's going to call it a date because he believed that it was his fault that she was hired as a temporary guard. Because he has no other choice, he makes an effort to persuade her by claiming that this is a job that is both very simple and enjoyable. Tino, however, does not appear to be persuaded, and he inquires of Kirai whether he truly believes that she is such a convenient lady. As Kirai contemplates this, he comes to the conclusion that he has tainted her pristine spirit. Finally, Tino takes a look at the request and she declares, "This is the worst request in the history of world history." Even if they were to remove everything, there's nothing positive about this situation. The reward, the binding time, the content, and the difficulty are all negative. Who would even consider granting such a request, she wonders. She then suddenly comes to the conclusion that it must be a game of punishment. She reveals to Kirai that he's only a level 40 hunter, and that she is an extremely young person for this opportunity. According to her, there are a lot of other things that she wants to be useful for when it comes to Kirai, but she states that she's unable to handle a rescue mission that involves 5 people by herself. At that moment, she gets to her feet, recalls something that she needed to do, and dashes out of the lounge building. As soon as Kirai removes the chain that was attached to his waist, it takes on the form of a dog. This is a unique dog chain, a unique treasure in the form of a train that grants the owner the ability to create a fangless dog that swears allegiance to their master. Tino is brought back to life by him using the chain. She then makes an effort to justify her actions by stating that she wasn't fleeing from him in the traditional sense, but that she is now restrained by the metal chain that is in front of Kirai. She informs him that his chains are excessively restrained, and that it's risky because they do not realize the concept of fatigue. "It's very simple to destroy someone like me," she continues to say. When Kirai looks at her, he notices that her eyes are turned up and sly. He's under the impression that her master is exerting a great deal of negative influence. It is not a good idea for her to exert herself, he tells her. According to him, her life is the most important thing in the world, and it is her master who is forcing her to act in an unreasonable manner. The only thing he's doing is giving her a straightforward assignment, taking into consideration her development and ensuring that she will barely survive this ordeal. She begs him to stop getting carried away with his Spartan program and says that he should give it some thought. In Kirai's opinion, that was not his intention. At long last, he takes the time to read the request, which is for Treasure Hall Level 3, the White Wax Nest. It is a treasure hall that is located close to the capital and is a dungeon of moderate difficulty. Not only is there a low probability of finding treasure there, but it also has an unpopular location that is not even considered to be a good den. A request has been made stating that 5 individuals have gone missing, and the date of their disappearance was approximately 3 days ago. In the event that it had occurred a week ago, there would have been a very slim chance of survival. There is a maximum time limit of 1 week for completing this task, and the reward money is 3,000 gils, which is essentially considered to be worthless by a hunter. Nevertheless, as a form of retribution, the request is going to be turned down without question. However, Kirai is completely clueless as to why it is so terrible. Tino is finally told by him that he understands what she's trying to convey, which is that she does not wish to travel by herself. Tino, who is taken aback, declares that she will go if he comes along with her instead. After giving it some thought for a while, Kirai recalls that not too long ago there were some hunters at the location where members were recruited who were interested in going to the White Wax Den. As for those guys, he's perplexed as to why they're not invited as well. At that moment, he recalls that perhaps her name was Luda. Luda, Gilbert, and Greg are gathered around the table along with Tino. However, Tino is thinking she does not know what's going on, but they are all here now. Greg is surprised and says that they are at the Footprints Lounge. Luda is wondering why she asked them to come here. Gilbert is as irritated as he always is, and he asks, what exactly does she want to talk about? Because he does not want to waste his time. Tino, who's listening to all this, stands up and says if they don't want to, they can say no. On the other hand, she reveals to them that her master has entrusted her with a particular mission of punishment game, and has provided her with 3 names to accompany her. She informs them that she would like for them to accompany her in forming a party. It comes as a surprise to everyone to hear that. Despite this, Tino continues to insist that they have the ability to simply decline the offer if they do not wish to. During this time, Kirai is currently seated in his room. Kirai explains that it's the root, and there are things that Eva cannot say, even if they are true. Eva says, "What a lousy quest he gave to Tino." On the other hand, Eva expresses her concern and states that she believes it is too soon for Tino, who is a solo player, to take the role of leader of a party organization. Nevertheless, Kirai claims that he did this for her sake. On the other hand, he is of the opinion that what Eva has stated is not incorrect. However, he should not be concerned about it because Tino is powerful, particularly in terms of swiftness, which has earned her mentor's approval. it's likely that she can easily get away from that place in some way. However, if his member recommendation was terrible and she's caught in something bad, it is her fault that she did not complain when he gave her the mission. She's responsible for the situation. On the other hand, he has high hopes that once Tino has gained some more experience, she'll be more submissive to him and less hostile towards him. He makes an attempt to justify himself by stating that it is nothing more than the whip of love for Tino's future, and that this conversation ought to come to an end. According to Dahi, he would like to get away from all of the hustle and bustle and attend the hot spring. Eva, on the other hand, inquires if he would be interested in traveling as a clan member. According to Eva, she is unable to do that because if she does, the members of her party will get into trouble. Despite the fact that Kirai is concerned about Tino's well-being, he's under the impression that he is unable to leave this location. Additionally, Eva takes a look at the request and explains that despite the fact that it's only a level 3 treasure house, they have received a request from the search administration. Kirai, on the other hand, makes an effort to maintain her composure and explains that she is no longer a child and that she can seek assistance from any member of his clan if she finds herself in a precarious situation. After that, Tino walks into the room while crying and hugs Kirai, stating that she is unable to complete the task after all. Eva makes an effort to bring her attention to the fact that the Plan Master's office is off by hunters. Despite this, Kirai makes an effort to inquire about the matter. Tino merely states that she is uncertain if she's prepared to fulfill this request. After that, she brings Kirai to the lounge, where Gilbert and Greg are still waiting for her to arrive. Gilbert expresses his annoyance by stating that she is tardy, despite the fact that he's been waiting very long. Greg, on the other hand, takes notice of Kirai and explains that he's finally able to accept the fact that he's a member of Staragi, now that he has seen him appear at the Footprints headquarters. In the meantime, Luda shared that he had taken her by surprise the day before when he informed her that he would be coming to the recruitment. She had only anticipated that he would be a hunter. Despite this, Kirai claims that he did not intend to trick her in any way. While this is all going on, Gilbert is irritated by the fact that Strange Grief is comprised of a man who appears to be relatively weak. According to him, he's heard that they are the most powerful party in the capital city district. Assuming that he is a member of them, it would appear that they are not as powerful as he had anticipated they would be. In the meantime, Kirai asserts that it's nothing more than a baseless rumor due to the fact that it's not true that they are the strongest or anything like that. In addition to squeezing his arm, Tino tells him that these individuals are extremely impolite, and that she is unable to accompany them to the treasure house because they demonstrate such a lack of respect for her master. Kirai makes an effort to calm her down and reassures her that everything is fine, despite the fact that he had no idea what she was talking about. When Greg suddenly realizes that Tino is referring to him as master, he wonders if this indicates that he is the master of Footprints. It's impossible for Greg to accept this fact that he is that infinite possibility. In addition, Luda and Gilbert are taken aback by this information. With calculations that were on par with those of a god and schemes that were demonic, no one could fully comprehend his actions. Infinite Possibility is the second name that they gave to Kirai, in addition to the fact that he is the leader of Strange Grief. On the other hand, it is not merely a second name. Rather, it is a significant accomplishment that the search committee bestowed upon a well-known hunter. Moreover, in his particular instance, it was bestowed upon him as a result of the generosity of their leader. Greg expresses his surprise and explains that he has heard that the Infinite Possibility is a young character, but that Kirai is not yet old enough to hold this title. It makes no difference, and he is pondering what he ought to be doing at this moment. Despite the fact that Tino is still clinging to his arm, Kirai is aware that she is still demanding that he communicate with these individuals. As a result, he comes to the conclusion that he will handle everything from this location. His attention is directed towards them, and he explains that he has asked these individuals to come today because he's curious about what they are able to assist him with in the mission that he has assigned to Tino. He's curious if they are able to assist him at all. In spite of his best efforts, Gilbert is unable to make peace with the fact that he is the most powerful individual in the city of Infinite Possibility. He becomes irritated and inquires as to whether Kirai is being serious, There is no way that someone who appears to be so untrained as Kirai could be the figure of the infinite possibility. Tino steps forward to defend her master, stating that they are unaware of the strength that he possesses. It has been stated by her that she has lost faith in the human race. On the other hand, Kirai requests that she be quiet, but Tino tells him that it's not possible. That being said, Kirai is of the opinion that he despises people who are only capable of speaking in the same manner as he does, despite the fact that he is the same way. Greg makes an effort to calm Gilbert down and tells him not to fight because he is the hero, the one who defeated the infamous Arc Rodan. Even though he's the youngest hunter to ever be certified at level 8, Gilbert is unable to comprehend this fact and asks Greg to release him. Kirai, on the other hand, is observing Gilbert and is of the opinion that if he were in Gilbert's position, he would be kneeling at this right moment. Therefore, he inquires of Luda whether she would be willing to assist him, but Luda responds that she would first like to ask a question, and she asks, "Is it true that he's a level 8? She says. According to Kirai, it is true, but it's just a number. He goes on to explain that when someone is the leader of a party or a clan, they also receive the experience that their members have gained. And because Footprint is such a large clan, even if the amount of experience that's required is quite substantial, he will be able to acquire it in a short amount of time." Tino becomes ecstatic and announces that she will also be devoting her experience points to him. This causes Gilbert to become even more enraged, and he claims that Kirai is cheating on him. Gilbert also claims that he does not believe that a man like him is a hunter of the highest caliber. On the other hand, Kirai asserts that possessing a level 8 is not sufficient to be referred to as a top-level hunter, and he does not have to believe him. It is becoming increasingly annoying to him. He's powerless to stop it, and he feels sorry for Tino, but she will complete the mission with one fewer member than was originally planned. After that, he tells Gilbert that it's okay if he does not want to go on the mission, and he asks Greg if he's willing to assist him. Greg hastily accepts the offer and declares that he will, without a doubt, be of assistance. This causes Gilbert to become irritated, and he asks Kirai if he's serious about his decision to not assist. Kirai expresses regret over the situation, but he's unable to take any action if he does not wish to accompany the group. Then, he tells Tino that this mission will be challenging if there are only 3 members going, and that they should choose one of their members at random with the intention of completing it. Nevertheless, Tino makes the suggestion that he should accompany her, but Kirai flatly refuses to do so. As soon as they're unable to continue their conversation, Gilbert strikes his fist on the table and issues a challenge to Kirai to engage in a duel. If he is unsuccessful, he will represent their company. Gilbert has stated that he does not like weak people, and he's also stated that he will not obey him if he's weaker than any other people. As a result of his sharp brain, which has earned him a lot of notoriety, Kirai tells Tino that she will be his adversary rather than him, because, in the end, she will be the leader of the party. Furthermore, it is she and not him who he is obligated to obey. Additionally, Tino is a little dissatisfied, and she claims that he's very skilled at disguising his disappointment in this manner. On the other hand, it is acceptable, and she confronts Gilbert, asking him how dare he insult her master. She's left with no other option but to exact divine retribution and punish him. She performs a move that is similar to a split and then asks Kirai to evaluate her flexibility. She asserts that the sister was the one who instructed her directly, and she is now able to perform this position with ease. Kirai claims that he is completely clueless about what she's on about, and that it's incredible. Because Gilbert reminds him a little bit of an old friend, Kirai believes that this is a situation in which everyone comes out ahead. Gilbert, who is shaking, inquires as to the reason why she's looking down on him so thoroughly. Simply put, Kirai explains that it's due to the fact that she's a level 4 hunter. On the other hand, Tino requests that he keeps the information from Gilbert. In contrast to Kirai, she's nothing more than dust. The thoughts that Tino has about Kirai are beyond his comprehension. Tino, on the other hand, pulls out her sword and places it on the ground, stating that she will make everything in her power to avoid killing Gilbert. Because of this, Gilbert is even more irritated. As Luda looks at it and considers the possibility that Tino is very powerful and stirring things up, she's also concerned about her and inquires if she's okay. Kirai responds with a, "Probably." In addition, Gilbert throws his weapon in a fit of rage and declares that he does not require any weapons in order to defeat her, and that his bare hands are sufficient enough. Kirai is prompted to consider what a swordsman ought to do when they are not armed with their sword. On the other hand, despite the fact that it appears to be the case, she dropped the sword as if it were a handicap. Tino is more comfortable using her fist to communicate with other people. However, she must not let her guard down. Even if the person she's fighting against is not as skilled as she is, it appears that she's brimming with vitality and prepared to kill Gilbert with a blow to the head. As she prepares to engage in combat, she suggests to Kirai that he purchase her juice after this. Kirai, on the other hand, claims that he did not promise her that, but that he will carry out the task so long as the quest is successful. She gives Gilbert a staring look before rushing forward to punch him in the face with her fist. Following that, she gives him a kick to the chest, which causes Gilbert to fall to the ground in a very little time. As a result of seeing Gilbert crumble in such a manner, Greg and Luda are taken aback. Tino directs her attention to Kirai and inquires if he witnessed that. This is the punishment that she received from heaven. In an attempt to stand up, Gilbert asserts that the situation is not yet over. Tino expresses some surprise and says that she had anticipated that he would have become aware of the fact that she was withholding information by this point. She had the potential to quickly break his neck, and if he learned anything from this experience, he should refrain from using his cheeky tongue towards her master in the future. It is recommended that he worship him as if he were a god, in addition to turning towards the headquarters of the clan 3 times a day, saying a prayer and bringing her regular tributes, which she will then give to the master. After that, Gilbert gives her a glare and then rushes towards her in an attempt to charge and attack her. However, Tino easily avoids the attack and hits Gilbert on the back of his neck, causing him to fall to the ground once more. The fight is being watched by Kirai, who says that if his brain had been shaken up in such a manner, he'd be throwing up all over the place right now. However, Tino tells Kirai that he has been a significant contributor to her development and asks her to take a look at how much she has grown. Kirai, on the other hand, is considering the possibility that she ought to say those words to her mentor instead. It comes as a surprise to both Greg and Luda to see her attack. Greg believes that it's insane for Gilbert to be able to overwhelm a swordsman from the front like that, despite the fact that Gilbert is weak with his hands. Above all else, she's accustomed to engaging in combat. The fact that she is only a teenager possesses such power and capability is absolutely terrifying. The power of footprints is something that he's curious about. Luda reveals that she has never engaged in a fight using only her hands, and she inquires of Kirai whether he can explain to her why Gilbert was defeated. In spite of this, Kirai is under the impression that he is either not a swordsman or a swordsman who does not possess a sword. Meanwhile, Gilbert makes an effort to stand up and asserts that he is still capable of fighting. Kirai, on the other hand, is under the impression that he has already lost the battle when he threw his sword in front of Tino. The term miracle does not exist in the world. Because of this, Kirai begins to question whether the pride he feels in his role as a hunter is the reason he continues to stand up to this day. He asks himself if the enthusiasm he had when he was just starting out as a hunter is still present in him now. Even if he's battered by an adversary who is significantly more powerful than he believes that it's a talent to be able to stand up for himself. It appears that he does, in fact, possess the characteristics of a hunter, despite the fact that he believes that his recommendation of him to Ark was nothing more than a mere coincidence. As a result, he suggests to Tino that she should allow him to attend her party. Tino is taken aback and reveals that he has not even been victorious against her. Kirai, on the other hand, asserts that she is able to instruct him until all of the issues are resolved in the future, and that she will learn a lot from this experience.